The question says I should find the root of these two mappings. So this is the first mapping and then this is the second mapping. Is that okay? So the mistakes we see students doing several times is that they don't know where to start and how to start tackling some of the questions like this. So assuming these are identical twins, so if you know the meaning or the definition behind the identical twins, you can, or you may agree with me that sometimes they are very difficult to differentiate. So you may not know who is this and then you may not know who is that. Is that okay? So dealing with that, or maybe having that idea in mind to solve a linear function as well as exponential mapping, or maybe exponential linear mapping here, how do you determine that this is a linear and then this is an exponential before you can even write the definitions of a linear, or who is called a linear down and then who is also called an exponential down, right? So that is what we are going to do in this video. If you are new on this channel, make sure that you subscribe to our channel for more lessons like this, and if you gain some value on this video, then make sure that you give us a thumbs up and then comment down below if you have any special case. So if you have a question like this, your first step is to determine, so let's deal with this part here. Your first step is to determine which type of mapping or who exactly this guy here is. Now let's demonstrate and find out some of the features among this guy here to see, okay, this is the first twin here, or maybe this is the second twin. Is that okay? So that is what we are going to do here. So now let's identify. So the twins that we are talking about here is a linear and what, you agree with me, that's going to be exponential, right? So these are the two guys that we are talking about. So these are the twins that we are talking about here. So who is linear and who is exponential? So for us to identify some of the features of a linear here, what we are going to do here is that we are going to pick this guy here, this second guy here, minus the first guy, the previous one. Is that okay? So that is how we are going to determine the features of the linear here. So we have a -2 minus 1, so we are going to have a -3. So let's check the second person here. So this minus the previous one, that's going to be -5 minus, remember there's a negative here, so minus -2. So that's going to be, of course that should be okay. Let me do this. And so I have a -5, this one tends to be plus, right? So everything is going to be equal to -3. So if you check this, you are still going to have the same answer. So if that happens, then we say that this guy here is what, a linear mapping. Have you seen how easily we identify the first twin here? Is that okay? So that is how we are going to call, this guy to be a linear. So once you're able to identify that this is a linear, what are we going to do here? So we have the definitions of a linear, that is going to be equal to ax and then plus b. So this is what we call a linear mapping, this guy. Now our work here is to make sure that we find the values of these two people here. So that's the a and then b, then we are free to go, right? So once again, if you are new on this channel and then you are enjoying this video, why don't you subscribe to our channel if you haven't, or just give us a thumbs up. This helps us to know that okay, you need more lessons like this so that we can upload more videos like this for you to tackle any issue that you come across based on this mapping issue. Okay, boom. So once you're able to identify, so how are you going to find the a and then how are you going to find the b? So our task here is to do those two things. Now with this thing in mind that this guy is called the linear mapping, so a is what we are calling what, the gradient. So the name of the a is what we are calling the gradient, right? So how do you find the gradient? The gradient here, we are this is just a letter, so it can be any letter from you. It can even be those Greek letters, alpha, delta, and so on and so forth. So okay, this is just a name we are using to represent something. So here we have as the m2 minus m1 divided by should I use m2? Okay, let me use y2, because you have a y2 minus y1 divided by s2 minus 1. Don't be panic about these letters here. They are all just the numbers coming from these things. Yeah? So that is very easy. I believe most of you know how to do this. And so mistake that we are trying to correct in this video, how to differentiate that this is a linear and then this is what, an exponential. Is that okay? So how do you do that? So with this y2 and y1 things, you can just pick any of these y values, right? So y2, of course, 2 is always greater than 1, right? Is that okay? 2 is always bigger than 1. So here I'm going to go for -2 to be my y2, and then I'll go for minus 1 to be my y1. Is that okay? So this minus that is how it goes. If you go for this and then minus this, don't jump. right? So from 1 you go to 2, or from 2, if you are counting backwards, you go to 1. Is that okay? So don't jump. So if I go for this -5, I must go to negative 2 as to be what my y1. So the same value here. So if I go for this thing, they must correspond. So what I mean by correspond, y2 is -2. Which one corresponds to the s2 here? So of course that is going to be the 2 minus the s1 is also going to be my 1. Are you there? So you have a -3 divided by 1. Of course, that's going to be -3. So we have our a here to be -3. Is that okay? So we are done with this a. Right? Any question? So if you have a question, just make sure that once again you comment in the comment section below for more help. Right? Okay, so perfect. What will be our next step here? So our next step here is that we are just going to find the values of this b. Right, so I can wipe this thing. Always, if you want to recap this thing, you can just go back and then check exactly what I've done here. Now finding the values of the b here, that's also just going to be very easy. So we are just going to pick any random numbers, right, corresponding numbers of the x and the y here. So okay, we are just determining the value or the rule of this particular mapping here. So here we have a y, because I don't want to make any mistake and I'm not going to any difficult numbers here. I will just go for the smallest numbers here. So that is, I'll choose, okay, we are going to, let me use the word choose, right? So is that choose a, that is y1 equal to 1, and then we have our x here also equal to 1, right? So like this, these are the numbers that I'm picking. So if I choose, these are the y values, right? So if I choose y here to be 1 here, and then I must choose your partner, which is also 1 here. Is that okay? I cannot choose 1 here and go and choose 2 for the x, right? So those are some of the mistakes that we see students doing. So always pay attention to some of the things like this. Now we are just going to replace these people in this general definition, because this is what we are calling what, the linear mapping. So here what are we going to do? We have our y to be 1, that's going to be, we have our a to be -3. Are you there? We already find that. So the x here is just also 1, and then plus b, because this is what we are looking for. So you have y to be equal to -3, and then plus b. Is that okay? So how do you solve for these things? So see this guy adding 3 to both sides, or let this guy cross the equal to sign. You have 1 plus 3 equal to b. Of course, b is going to be equal to 4. Right? So now, how do you write the general rule of these things here? So we are going to maintain the y and the x here, because the reason why we are maintaining these two people here, we have so many values of the x and the y, we don't know which one. So if I go for 2, I know that my corresponding value is going to be -3. What about if someone goes for 1? How do you determine it? That is why we maintain the x and the y, and then we go on the values of this, and that is going to be y equal to a is of course -3, and then the x here, and then what is b, plus 4. So this is going to be the rule of our mapping, right? Of course, this is a linear mapping. I will see how easy and simple we find the rule of this particular mapping. So that is how easy you do that. You may rewrite this thing in the several ways. If you can rewrite this thing in a different way, make sure that you write your answer in the comment section below for us to see, right? So we are all learning on this platform. So now let's deal with how to identify the second person, or the second twin brother or twin sister, who is what, an exponential mapping. So the best way to identify that a particular mapping is an exponential mapping here is to deal with something that we call a ratio. Is that okay? A ratio. So we are going to check. So how do we check the ratio here? So the symbol of that is just going to be small r. Is that okay? How do we check that? For just in the similar way that we subtract this from that, we are going to pick this 16 divided by this. So we have our 16 divided by 32. That's going to be, is that 1 on 2? So 1 and 2, right? So 1 and 2. Are there? And then keep on checking. So what will happen if I go for 4 on 8? So 4 on 8 is also going to be 1 on 2. What will happen if I go 2 on 4? So 2 on 4. Of course, obviously, that's also going to be 1 on 2. You see this 1 on 2, and then 1 on 2, another 1 on 2. Tells you straightforward that this particular type of mapping is what, an exponential mapping. Is that okay? So this is how we are able to identify this twin sister or a brother here to be what, an exponential mapping. So once we can call this guy to be an exponential, what is the image behind that? That is going to be equal to, we have what, ARX minus B. If you're already on this channel, I believe you ever come across this since here, right? So this is the image behind the exponential one. So this is what we are calling the exponential, and then this is how we identify that this type of mapping is what an exponential mapping. Are you there? So obviously, so as usual, we are going to find the values of the A and then B, and then here's another person here which is going to call what the R here, because that was the R that we used to find that. So we are free to go. So we have our R here to be equal to 1 on 2. Do you agree? Now there's that we are going to find the values of the A and B, which is very simple. If you're already on this channel here, if you haven't, just make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Once again, we are going to maintain the values of the X and the Y to be a general, because they are changing, right? So they are changing here. Now how do you find the A here, you just choose straightforward. You are going to choose the A from this type of what mapping here to be 32. You don't just choose like that. So what are we going to, A is going to be the first person in at the down here, right? So at the down here, A is always at the down here. A is always at the down here. That was the first person just after the letter here. It's okay. If you don't have this letter X and Y here, always A is this guy, the first person, whichever the number is. That's what we are going to. What do you think could be the B? So yes, I guess you get it. A second, pause the video and then write it down. Yes, you got it correct. So that is going to be -1, right? So if you didn't get it correct, there's nothing wrong with that. That's how you learn. You learn by trying so many things. So you just replace with the help of this R here. R is going to go to 1 on 2. With these three things here, you pick them and then replace them inside this definition. Then make sure that you write your formula for me in the comment section below, together with this A, R, and then B, let me see in the comment section below. So once again, if you have any problem, don't hesitate to comment in the comment section below, and then make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Give us a thumbs up if you gain some lessons from this video. So thank you for watching.